Hello, everyone, and welcome to the year-end episode of Respecting the Beer. My name is Gary Arndt, and we got the usual suspects with us. We got Bobby Fleshman, Allison Fleshman, and Joel Hermansen. And in this episode, we're going to look back on the year that was in McFleshman's Brewing and also the podcast. This is, if I am correct, technically your fifth year in operation?
No, this is our sixth, almost seventh. We're coming up on that.
So it was 2018?
Yeah, we brewed our first beer 7 years ago today. Our first two beers.
We're recording this on the
7th of December. Yeah.
This is the correct day to be doing this.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Go team.
That's awesome.
But that was 7 years ago?
Yep.
What was number one? What beer was number one?
It was Cove and Tallmast. Pirates Cove and Tallmast.
Oh, two gold medal winners.
We'll get into it. Yeah.
So there are different things we can talk about. Let's start, before we get into like the business and brewing side and how that's grown, let's talk about the beer side. Of all do you know how many batches of beer you've done this year? Approximately?
Oh, he knows to the number.
Oh, well, batches probably, I don't have that in front of me, but it's probably around 150.
We brewed
batches.
our 547th batch.
That was included in that. Of 547.
Of 540. Well, no, and it happened to be 547, but it was
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yep.
Of course it did.
right. Well, that was planned.
I know.
We've done more than 547.
And then we went on and made a triple IPA from that with honey. So there's some new stuff coming down the pipes.
So of the beers that you did this year, what would you say and let's say, what was your biggest success? Like something you were pleasantly surprised with?
Well, that is not entirely my beer. That's our Schwarz beer. So it's our beer. Cooler, Eric Rotier is a brewer from Titletown Brewing Company.
Nicknamed Cooler.
Which we call Cooler. He can tell that story on a future episode, but he's been dying to do Schwarz beer since he joined.
And explain what that is.
Schwarz beer means black in German, so it's a black lager, black beer. And they're not roasty, so don't think Irish stout here. But they're very dark, and they're a little bit chocolatey. And he and I have been talking about that beer for a while, and he did 90% of the recipe, and I just signed off on it, and he knocked it out of the park. I think that's the most sought after beer we made in this entire year. And it's one that we sort of, we don't have anything else in that category. We don't have a non-roasty dark beer. And I mean dark beer, black beer.
And its name was?
Oh, it was named after the eclipse, right?
Yeah,
that
Total
happened.
Eclipse.
Yeah, we named it Total Eclipse. I'm not sure what that'll stick.
I remember that being
stick.
on the menu, but it wasn't on very long.
It wasn't on
we
very
only
long.
Limited run.
We only did like a couple kegs of it, so it's a small pilot batch.
But
So-
it to shout out to your NASA days and such, Bobby and I took our 5-year-old down to see the total eclipse. We were down in Iowa somewhere. Illinois. Yes, we were. And something that starts with an I. Anyway, so I think that it's a beautiful beer, but it also to celebrate the total eclipse and to celebrate just the fact that we are space nerds, but also lager nerds.
And since we brewed that, we installed a Luker faucet.
The Luker!
And-
That would be number
And
one, my
everyone
vote.
is convinced, and I'm convinced too, that when that beer meets Luker, it's going to be a house favorite for
One
a
might
long
say
time.
it's like a total eclipse of the heart.
If you guys brew this again,
We are.
and you end up canning it,
Yeah.
took this at the 2017 Eclipse.
We're looking at a picture of the eclipse. This is great.
I took this in Nebraska.
That would be a cool can.
Free to
Oh,
use.
yeah. Yeah.
Make the can totally black,
Yeah.
except for that. The Luker Faucet.
Luker!
Love the Luker.
We've talked about the Luker on a previous episode, but very briefly, why is this special?
Okay, so funny thing is, just last week I installed a new cooling system, which makes it work even better. It's on hyperdrive now. But what it does is it creates foam, especially in like Czech style lagers. The way it works, it's a very simple mechanism on the outside, but the devil's in the details. But it gives our staff control over how much foam and what quality of foam sits on top of a beer they pour. It's very popular in the Czech Republic, and they're only made in the Czech Republic, these faucets. So they brought that into me mid-year and passed it off to me to install. And I got it installed, finally got it fully 100% operational just this last week by adding that cooling system to it. So our beer tenders are going to be able to learn the art of pouring like never before next year, or starting today, honestly. If people wonder what I'm talking about here, just come inside and ask for a Maliko pour, which means milk, which translates to all foam. But if you run a Maliko pour out of one of these faucets and just shoot it at a 5-ounce glass, you get to experience that phase between foam and liquid. There is a phase between those two, and it's like a wet foam. It drinks like a beer.
It's basically like when you've got the spacing between the bubbles has beer in it.
Oh yeah, it's tremendously wet.
And it's a beautiful combination of surface tensions, and it's a thicker
wet versus dry foam.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of like melted marshmallow. I think melted marshmallow would also be this wet foam of sugar.
Yeah.
If I could de-nerd this for a second.
Yeah, there we go. Wait, someone's de-nerding Allison, who's de-nerding me. So I'm way down in that nerd
like
well.
Game
6
of
degrees
Science
from nerd. This pour tastes a lot like a milkshake. If beer was a milkshake, this is.
But not a milkshake beer, because that's weird.
No.
The lactose
but
stuff.
The
Beer flavored beer. Hashtag.
it gives off like a shake vibe.
I would like to de-nerd it one level further. Luker good.
Yes.
Good spelled G-U-D.
Me like, yeah.
What was...
Can I point out one
Sure.
favorite of mine was the introduction of Stepchild.
You could tell I was struggling
Reintroduction.
when he asked me.
I
had to
Reintroduction.
choose. Yeah.
Stepchild.
right.
She's been around before.
I'll let Joel tell it because he's now new to Stepchild.
I have been waiting for that since I got on the scene, and it finally came. And I am so glad that I had the opportunity to have it.
Well,
because
and-
I'm
Who and what is Stepchild?
well documented that I'm a 547 guy, and the Stepchild is a red version of the 547. It has different
Hops.
notes to it, but it's was originally brewed as a 547, and some unique malfunctions in the.
I don't know if we discussed that.
Yeah, we
before.
did.
Yeah,
that was
covered
on
that.
one of the most recent.
We had a
episodes.
mishap on a brew day and had
Yep.
to redesign it. Yeah.
And what a wonderful, happy, I quote Bob Ross here, that was a happy mistake because what came out of that is just a glorious beer.
And I've been texting Joel as I've been drinking Stepchild. I'm going to get sidetracked if I don't keep myself on track here. But in that glass, I think we have created the best example. And I wasn't trying to go copy another brewery yet again, but I think we made the best example of what we might call our celebration ale. Yeah. Stepchild is just so good.
For those that don't know, Celebration is Sierra Nevada's.
That's their Christmas release every year.
But it's not a Christmas beer. They just release it at Christmas.
It's a red IPA that comes out in Christmas.
It's my all-time favorite beer, by the way.
Joel will go find it. As soon as it hits whatever store shelf, he'll find it, and he'll just leave us a package on our front. He's like Santa
he didn't do
Claus
it this year,
for beer.
so there's that.
Oh, wait, you didn't do it this year?
I didn't.
You fail.
I did.
It's all right. I found it. I discovered it.
Never mind.
It's in my belly.
I retract what I
I've done it.
said.
I've done it in previous years. I fell short this year of expectations.
Well, but Stepchild has been gone for a few years, and it was at a fever pitch at this point. We put a thing on a bar, let people vote what they wanted to see come back, and Stepchild was unanimously the one they wanted to see come back. So it came back.
So glad it did.
And it's now our December release forever in perpetuity. So we're going to make this our celebration ale. And then we were going to talk about doing a Christmas episode today, but I think that's the limit to which we'll talk about Christmas. I think that's our new, quote, Christmas ale.
Well, and if it doesn't come back each December, I'll quote one of your Wednesday night regulars who said that if this isn't back next December,
yeah,
he's going to start a tire fire in the middle of State Street.
Oh, gosh.
He may have been one of the most recent guests on the Ryan Heitzgebot podcast.
No, it's so good, and this is where I didn't want to derail myself. It's so good that we're coming off of just winning a medal for Pirates Cove, which is basically was our top selling beer until 547 happened to meet Joel. But Pirates Cove just won international gold medal, and yet I'm thinking of putting more money behind Stepchild in the next beer competition. I think it's got the chops to win. Whether it does or not, who knows?
What's funny is Bobby just gives me an eye really quickly, and I can read so much of that eye. One of the things that folks
what's it going to cost to do a competition?
No, I want to. So the beer competitions have been fun, but they're also really expensive. You have to not only you have to send like a case plus or 2 cases
and
of
big
beer.
brewers will send it all without batting an eye.
But it also costs like $200 to $300 per entry. And so
Plus shipping.
And technically you're not supposed to ship beer, but that's okay.
Unless you just have Christoph and I deliver.
Anyway, so we are very selective when Bobby will come to me and I'm like, you've got this much budget because I'm now like, I'm in charge of the bank account. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to send this one beer to this one competition. So it's not like we're sending every single beer.
No,
we keep winning these medals because like we're just sending one and we win. And I think one of the things we should really celebrate is just Bobby. I mean, one, I'm married to him, so I'm a little biased, but also his thumb on the pulse of a good beer and a good beer recipe that like he's like the beer whisperer. So the fact that he comes up with these recipes and then he just picks one. He's like, okay, I think, you know what, Pirates Cove needs a medal. So let's send that one. And it wins gold. Like this is continuously how we're winning our medals. He's like, yeah, this one needs one, so I'm going to send it in. If we send in all of our beers, if we could actually afford it,
man,
I'm curious where we would actually like how many medals we could win because your recipes, and also I know I'm wandering, but that also gives credit to how amazing it is to have Cooler as our head brewer because he developed Aaron
who's doing the packaging.
Because
beer competitions are packaging competitions.
True.
Let's not forget that.
But I was going to say that Eric's Total Eclipse Schwarz beer recipe design, the fact that it gets your approval.
Not just approval. I think it may be our best release this year.
Right. Yeah. I just think that there's a lot more that goes into these recipe developments than just, let's, use these grains and use these hops. Like that, I think is a huge win for us and something that has really helped us.
We got a killer team
in the market.
Yeah. I talk about it all the time. All the cylinders are firing right now. But yeah.
I mean, one, I just want to reiterate, I think winning a gold medal at this competition is really saying something, especially in the category you won it at.
Right.
Which is a lager, which is like the most competitive.
Yeah.
But secondly, I mean, at a certain level, these are marketing things.
Oh, for sure. There's
no point in winning it twice.
Yeah.
Right. There's no value
That's my
in
argument.
That.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would agree.
Have fun with it.
Enter something else your next time.
It's internal gratitude. I mean, it's a pat on all of our backs, I think, as much as anything. Yeah.
Okay. So now my next question. What is the thing you did this year that you will never do again? The biggest mistake. Okay. Science is a series of experiments and many of them fail. And this was your failed experiment this year.
Well, sadly, I think it might be our Christmas ale. We took and extruded a bunch of pine sap from the Alex Schultz is one of our handyman graphic.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he went out and bought
I remember when he
got a bunch of pine.
You were talking about this on a previous episode.
Yeah.
Alex is always talking about juniper berries and pine stuff.
Yeah, so he went and extruded a bunch of stuff, and we made a Christmas ale. We were trying to home in on what Anchor Brewing Company does with their annual Christmas beer. Jury's still out on this subject, but as of the last tasting, it was way overdone. Not nearly something we'd ever want to sell as far as palatability.
This is the first time hearing of this. And
overdone how?
Piney. Yeah. Piney.
Yeah. What was the base?
Base is sort of an American brown ale. Okay. We're not done with this. It's not like we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but
Piney the Elder.
Oh my God.
Piney the Elder.
Yeah, so we'll see if that one comes to fruition. I'm trying to think of any more like disasters or mistakes. Does any come to mind for you?
Not on the beer side. I mean, Bobby puts a lot of thought into what things we're actually going to bring to fruition. I mean, there's a lot
even if it just didn't sell well.
There's some business stuff that we've done. I'm like, we're not.
Well, that is a different question, right? And it depends on what market you're in. This market is a lager market, and that's why our biggest selling beers are lagers. For sure. Well, inside the tap room is another animal. Yeah. 547's our number one seller, and it's not even close. So it's sometimes I wonder how much this diffuses out into the world. What we do in the tap room out into the wild. We'll see step by step. Nothing catastrophic comes to mind. I
can say one thing that we won't do again, which is more of a logistics thing. So we unfortunately in the early spring. The Appleton City Ordinance said that we could no longer have dogs in our tap room.
That was sad.
That was very sad. So I think that was one of the, it hurt our hearts. And so what we did was we built this kind of dog area outside And there's heaters and there's like this kind of fake grass turf type stuff, which unless you hit it weekly with baking soda and vinegar, and like, dogs like to, urinate on said space.
That was me.
Oh, well, there you go.
Just fessing
Anyway,
up.
so I think that's like one of the failures. We're like, oh no, we clean it and it's sanitized weekly.
To be honest, I've never noticed that.
I also stick my face down there to make sure it's clean. So I'm extra obsessive just to make sure that it's clean for the dogs.
Don't do that.
That's fair.
But before we get away, sorry, I mean.
Anyway, it's just one of the sad things that happened.
Yeah.
But we still support the
closed on
dogs.
that.
I know. And we're working with the city ordinances and, working with alder folks to try and get the law changed. But that was one of the sad things that happened this year. But we still have room for the dogs outside in the heated area.
The weird thing is, you guys were known for that. People brought their dogs. I never saw a problem. The mayor came here multiple times, many members of the city council. No one ever batted an eye.
Yeah.
And so I was as surprised as anyone else that somehow they would begin to worry about this.
So
Dogs
Appleton,
are awesome. So I guess that's probably point number one.
So if Appleton's listening, contact your alder person.
Well, and right? I could let me advocate for the for Appleton. And so we do serve a consumable product, but we do have areas that dogs probably shouldn't be, like in our mezzanine, to where it's kind of this, actually it's wood that we salvaged from the back, the old joists or whatever the rafter things. We've salvaged them and we built our mezzanine type thing. So dogs probably shouldn't go up on top of that, because if they do and they piddle on the ground, that will cascade down upon the people sitting underneath. So there's certain areas that dogs probably shouldn't be allowed, but the rest of the area is just concrete with floor drains. So, and that, as long as our staff are properly trained, they could easily clean up after the dogs.
You make it sound like there's like a flood of urine here.
That's fair.
And if you remember the Ryan's Heitgebot episode, there's a reason why you don't bring in cats.
That's true. Oh my God, save the cats. Poor cats.
A big win for us, I think, has been Tornado, which is the stepsister.
Little Tornado.
Well, I can't use that terminology because they'll get confusing. But it's a little sister of 547. And that is becoming a really popular beer in distribution. We've tried it out in a few different markets, and no one is in that lane. It's a West Coast IPA in Wisconsin. Not a double. It's a 6.7% alcohol beer. Just kind of an old school with some new twists to it. So that's been, for us, I think that's going to help us grow our brand pretty far.
That was a beer that you had a lot of requests
asks for a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and also is one of those beers that Bobby didn't just you were sitting on that recipe for a long time, really thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
Before it came to fruition.
Yeah. You gotta
and we
find a new lane.
strategized kind of what to call it, like what the label would be. Like we really thought.
And we ended up just going right on the nose, right?
Yeah.
Calling it Tornado.
My Apple Watch just came up with the McFleshman's update as we're sitting here from Untapped.
Oh, that's so funny.
Nice.
From a beer standpoint, a brewing standpoint, what do you have planned for 2025?
Well, right off the bat, Ultima's coming back. It's a yearly beer. It's our Brute IPA. And that one has a very clear lane. The people that love that they'll drink other beers, but they look for that one. That's a very dry, champagne-esque beer. We make wine here. We're also a winery. So we have Marquette grapes and Edelweiss grapes, and we make white and red wine. And it never...
we don't sell that.
We don't release it as such. We blend that wine directly with Ultima. And we make a rosé and a blanc. And that's coming out in the next couple of weeks between the Christmas and New Year's. I think of it as our champagne, quote, of beer. But as far as the next year as a whole goes, Tornado is going to be a big push for us. And 547 has been promoted to number 3 on our distribution focus. Number 1 and 2 are our Pirates Cove Hellas, and then our Something Amber Vienna Lager. Public House is a year round now, and that really rounds out our top 5.
What do you have sitting in casks that are just waiting to be
in
unleashed?
kegs, a lot of different vantage points, and we just released a bunch of Debauchery, which is our Doppelbock, and Vantage Points is Imperial Stout.
Well, and one of those things, you've talked too much. I'm going to interrupt.
Go for it.
So one of the things that we did this year, which was really fun, was Vantage Point Day, where we celebrated the different Imperial Stouts with different flavorings, and we had folks vote on which one they liked the best. And I think we might actually be bottling and waxing the tiramisu.
Cappuccino. Yeah.
Oh my god, that was so.
That was the clear winner. I
So
think.
good.
I mean, I think the maple bourbon was also very good.
Also good.
But I thought the cappuccino was the best. The cappuccino tiramisu. Yep. But Gary, this is the big announcement, and it's been the 10-year announcement, right? I keep bringing this up, but we're finally there at a point where we're going to get our act together and release our 10 Paces beers in package. 10 Paces are a collaboration with the Appleton Beer Factory that we do. And they are our version of what you find in the Belgian Sour series, the Belgian Sour beer styles. We have all sorts of fruited traditional sours coming out. This program has taken us 11 years, 10 years to get fully to where it is now. And we'll be packaging that through the beginning.
Are you going to have a standard 10 Paces?
No, 10 Paces is a brand. It's not a flavor.
I know, but
but if we do a lambic, like just a non-flavored one,
right? Because I used to get that every week.
Oh, yeah. We'll just need a name for it. Yeah.
There's always just been the cherry, and I'm just not a cherry guy.
100% get you. Yeah.
And just the plain sour, I really liked.
Well, and you'll be happy to know, I wish Christoph were here, but we're releasing barrel-aged Brettanomyces-aged Berliner Weiss, and that is phenomenal. It may be even better than Stepchild in terms of submitting to a competition. So we'll
I really like that.
Yeah.
Although I must confess, I did a taste test one night when Joel was here. I could not tell the difference between the Berliner Weiss and the Goza.
Oh,
they're very, very similar.
Interesting. Go Team Goza.
I'd also point out that I put 547 in both of those glasses. So.
And then I dumped it, and then you refilled it with
547.
Can I say something that I think was a win that we did that didn't necessarily have to do with the beer that we like? So this year, I want to give a shout out to, we had some in the winter in January and February. We had beer classes that Joel and I taught that I think were a huge success. And so that's something that we want to bring back because I think that was ridiculously fun.
Right. Coming back in 2025, Gary. You asked about 2025.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it's very on brand with what you're doing. And I should say the other big thing you did in this year is we launched this podcast.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's a big
like
deal.
the thing, right?
That is the thing.
Yeah.
And we've had folks come travel from far, far away because they heard on the podcast.
We have a long list. I have some
brewery that
exciting
exists.
new potential guests. I don't want to break that possibility. By
Hang on, I should add, if you would like to sign up for any of our beer classes, McFleshman's Beer Academy, you can find it on our website, McFleshman's.com.
And
we have a new class this year.
We do, new class.
We do. In the past, I've done beer in U.S. history, which we'll still do again.
We should.
We will. But we now are going to be running a beer in world history class.
And when you initially did this, you did this down in the tap room.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's because we were closed on Mondays, and so we opened up the tap room on Mondays.
But now you have this wonderful room that we are recording in.
The Prohibition Room.
Which is accessible
Yep.
to the tap room.
Yep.
Which was a change you did
Brilliant
this year.
idea.
It's a change we did last year, actually. Well,
Who came up with that idea?
So we opened.
I can't remember.
Oh, I think it was some guy named Gary who was just
podcaster
standing
came in one
there.
night.
He's a hack. He bought a beer and he never saw
I gotta admit, when I came in here, you're like, you had the mezzanine, and it's like, well, did you just not finish it? Like, why?
Well,
like, it's just natural. You built like a half stair, finished the stair.
And it took you saying that for me to go open the computer up and remember that we did design that. We walked away
did.
from the idea.
So Gary's like,
years ago.
Allison, you and Bobby should open up the Prohibition Room by adding the staircase on the mezzanine. And we're like, holy crap, that's the problem, is that we can't really rent out the Prohibition Room because
Came
it's only
together great.
accessible via an outside staircase. So winter, no one wants to use it. Now it's external seat, or it's extra seating.
So it'd be good to see bringing all this together, the classes and the podcasts and all the things we do, bringing it together in one big marketing promotional envelope.
And it's all under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
And that umbrella is building a community, which is what we do here.
Before because I got a lot more things, I'm not going to bring them up because we're going to run short on time. But
Yeah, don't worry about it. This is a podcast. This isn't network television.
It's not?
No.
Well, I did want to say I want to make an old world IPA,
A what?
Old world IPA.
So you're going to literally ship it to India?
I'm going to do my best to simulate all of that. Stand by for that. It's been a pet project I've had for years. I'm going to finally execute on that this year. And then the other one is we're doing a Snickers beer with Hop Yard up the street.
Wait, the candy bar?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh, I love Snickers.
No, hell.
Oh, yeah,
hell
we're
no.
doing a Snickers
That is
beer.
not Run Heitskabo.
Yeah, well, we can blame it on them, though.
Oh, yeah,
It's under
no,
their
that's
brand.
not right. Nice. Where's Christoph? He's
Two extremes there. But, also talking about our future expansion, we're still thinking about moving into a second location at some point. Not moving, expanding into. And I just kind of want to mention this, not to bring us down to a negative note, but a lot of breweries are closing, and I'm really proud that we're able to stay open through all of this. There's been it's been a challenging couple of years. If anyone's watching the news, we lost Mobcraft. We lost
Barrel 41 closed.
Barrel 41 this year. We lost
Sabbatical Brewing is
Line and
closing.
Kugels.
yeah.
Yep,
Pause for
Liney's.
that. Sabbatical. We lost the Enlightened Brewing Company, Milwaukee.
Is Leidenkugel's like the brand closing, or is it just being sold?
I think the brand's staying. It's going to get absorbed into the Milwaukee Brewing Plant or Miller Brewing Plant, but they lost 100 jobs. They closed the plant, so it's a whole thing. And so I'm really proud that we're standing. I know a lot of brewers are struggling right now, and I think it's because we've been able to innovate and we're making good quality product. Because at the end of the day, as it trims away, it's got to be the best quality that's going to survive. And we're even doing NA and THC beverages. We're trying to follow.
Well,
where the
we are
market is.
diversifying
Well,
because we have to.
I disagree with that a little. See, I'm not a believer in you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
That's true to a point.
right.
It is you must have a good product.
Yeah,
But having a good product does not guarantee success.
no.
And I feel like I'm in a certain way, like I have a similar mindset to you guys in terms of background and whatnot. You guys are academics and you come into the world of business. And I've heard you guys complain and just comment on the things you've been learning in the process of this. And it's like all crap I went through before, like learning the power of marketing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That it's just not enough to have a good beer. People need to know that you have a good beer.
Yeah.
So
If
from a business,
Stephanie's out there listening, she's probably screaming.
What's funny
at
is I
her
just
speakers.
look down on my notes and I see give
Stephanie will
Steph
come.
credit
Stephanie Harvey will be here in the next few
for
weeks.
yeah.
so from a business standpoint,
Yeah.
what do you think what were the realizations or the advancements you guys made this year?
You know what's so funny? This is going to sound so boring, but I had the good fortune, because lack of a better phrase, I really wanted to understand the numbers of the business. And so I created a budget. And Bobby knows about this budget. Oh my gosh. So basically I went through and I looked at every single transaction this brewery has made. I mean, we run about $1 million through this company.
Your neuroses was kicking in.
It has, and I have it cataloged and characterized and even color coded. And you'd say like, oh, well, that's just a chart of accounts and it's fine. But I really have a thumb on the pulse of the finances of this business that I've never had before. I mean, I'm a number nerd. Hooray, give me a spreadsheet.
You? Really?
I know. But I think that understanding that the business aspect of how much we've missed in terms of opportunities to market and sell, I think we would be farther if we had that strength. But that's been one of my biggest realizations, just looking at this budget.
Give an example of that.
Same, like
Opportunities to sell you're talking about.
well, so like just optimizing social media, for example. So instead of just saying, hey, like from a reactive versus proactive perspective. So a reactive perspective would be like, hey, come, we have this new beer on tap, Little Tornado. Like, had we really built up anticipation, like, hey, Little Tornado's coming. Hey, Love 547, here we go. Like, I think that there's ways to have strategized building the hype that we missed out on.
How does a little guy simulate what the big guy does? 'Cause
Right.
they're doing that.
And a lot
Little
of
guys don't
this
have enough
has become-
time.
I don't think you want to simulate what the big guys do, because you can do stuff they can't do.
True.
Oh, sure.
We are
We're
much more
never-
And
agile.
you will never be Miller.
Right.
You can
Yeah.
never compete with them. What Miller offers is that
That's a compliment. We will never be Miller. Cool.
I mean,
But it's like they're
another
offering a
thought.
mass-produced beer. Everyone knows what they're getting. You're offering something completely
Right.
different
Right.
that they can never do.
Right.
And I think you need to emphasize your strengths.
Right.
And that is you're going to fill that's the niche you fill in the ecosystem.
Right.
When you walk into the beer cooler at Quick Trip, which is a local convenience store.
Yes.
Fine.
call it the breakfast store.
It's just it's just mass produced. It's that quantity beer, and maybe you're not going to be there. But
We actually are
What's
there.
funny is
but-
I have a
Trip?
picture
Yeah.
of my
Oh, yeah.
5-year-old standing next to Pose to or something. Amber, I was like, oh my God, we're in Quick Trip.
Yeah,
Quick.
yeah. Yeah,
Little
yeah.
kid, go next to the thing. And
But
we're
you're
gonna,
right.
like, take a
We don't
picture.
get like eye level shelf, and we're not that prominent.
It was
there.
lower and to the right,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we were there.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a thing?
what?
Yeah.
Shelf placement?
Oh, Lord, yes.
All right, let's do
Dude.
another
Pay money
show on
for
that.
At the end of an aisle, like Frito-Lay and these companies,
Yeah.
they pay for that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we have offers to do it at all the local grocery stores.
But you have to
and
pay to play.
It's a whole thing. When Stephanie gets here, we're going to do like 5 episodes.
Wow,
on
I
this.
had.
Yeah.
I mean,
Again,
now
back
that
to this business aspect of things that
Yeah.
we're not aware of that
Yeah.
we're supposed to be doing. Like there's, and the other thing too, and so Gary, back to your question about like, so what did I learn from like doing this budget? I've learned, and this is something that, Gary, you said earlier, if you build it, they will come. That's really how Bobby and I naively started this company. We're going to build these cask conditioned ales and they will come and understand the beauty. It took a lot of work to educate the consumer about what a cask conditioned ale was, as opposed to the 547, which just sells itself, one might say. Anyway,
Joel
but
sells it.
Joel sells it.
I do sell it, yeah.
But how to take a dollar that so someone gives us $1 to buy their beer, or they give us $8.
Shoot, I've been overcharging people for $1.
So how do we take that $8 and then convert it into more money to put into the brewery and to reinvest it? I've been thinking about these dollars as like, is this a good investment, bad investment? And these are things that we're just learning as naive business owners, that I think it's one of those things that people who come into this place and they're like, oh my God, I love the taproom experience. I'll buy this beer. I feel like this part of this community, but in the end, it is also a business. And we're having to figure out ways to strategize reallocating or reusing and reinvesting that money such that we can just pay our employees and continue to grow our employees. Because we've created 14 jobs in Appleton since we've opened. I mean, we're a small business, but
5
those are
full-time and then
5 full-time.
Yep.
More than
And then
me.
several part-time. And so thinking about how do we continue to grow such that we can grow the number of jobs we can create.
Yeah, I think
that's
it's
completely
exciting for
different
me
approach.
that we have all this potential. We have a brand. We know from these lessons what to do next. And yet I look and I see the landscape of just maybe everywhere with tariffs and inflation and everything else. But then I specifically see how it's affected the brewing industry and all these breweries that are closing. It feels kind of strange to also feel really good about where we are. And I'm very thankful for that.
But
Like,
we
that's-
are where we
yeah.
are, one, because people believe in the product that we sell.
Yeah.
And that's something that we haven't marketed well, I think, yet. And Gary, you're really good at
He's very subtle.
pointing this out, but also helping us recognize that we
Yeah.
have so many different stories to share
Yeah.
that we don't even realize it because it's just the life we've lived. But
That's your strength. Like if a lot of selling and a lot of marketing is telling the story. Big companies try to do that and they do it horribly because nobody's going to buy into the
Authenticity.
the century-long story of Budweiser. It's just frickin' Budweiser,
Yeah.
right? That's all it is. But I've heard so many things I never knew about the things you produce. Just talking to you guys on this podcast, I have drunk so many Brasina ciders here. I didn't know the story behind it. That's a fascinating story behind the naming of it. Just the naming of so many of your things have a story behind it. And then you get into, I didn't realize how many hops went into 547.
so many hops.
Right.
I just thought it was hops,
Right.
right?
It's just
but
on
no,
or off.
it gets into it. And every beer you make has a story.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's why we do the beer, the beer classes.
Yep.
Really is to kind of put those on either a historical timeline or a scientific, wouldn't be a timeline in science, but if we put it on a scientific perspective as well, we can put forward, because whenever I write my courses, and I know you do the same, branding is always something we're thinking about.
I've learned
this
that
is
it's
an
supposed to be.
opportunity to talk about tall mast, to do this beer and world history class. So that's why we do that. That's why we do this.
Well, and
although
one
this
thing-
is fun. I would just sit up here and talk
when
all day.
I remember, so Joel, you worked with us for I think only about 6 months or so, and you said one of the fun things about, so you're a high school English teacher. Sorry. History teacher.
Yep.
Sorry. I've had one too many. I was about to say 547 MSPs. Good God. How many MSPs have I had?
You just conceded the previous episode.
Please make a note of that in the notes.
Anyway, Joel came to me and said, I have trouble sharing stories with my students. Just students are changing over the years. He's a history teacher and just wants to share the stories of history. And he's like, I get to tell stories here. Like, you've given me an opportunity as a beer tender to tell stories. Mm-hmm. And that was so moving that it's really that we sell beer in conversation. And so it's not necessarily that you come in, you get your beer and you go sit down. You know, I think that folks, you know, they form relationships with our beer tenders because they're part of the story.
I was going to say that. I mean, this whole thing is about the liquid, which I came into the game knowing something about the liquid. And then I had to learn how to build the space and the ambiance. And then we had to hire people that could represent us. There's three legs to that chair that the customer experiences. And we are unbeaten in terms of our service here. Yeah, and we, if you look on any of the Yelps and the Googles and the whatevers, you see that no one really beats us in terms of those ratings. And it's not me. I'm not up there. It's the liquid is all I can do. I can build the space, I can put the beer in the kegs, but then the people behind the bar are really representing us.
Yeah.
For sure. Don't tear up, Joel. There's a lot of people down there. But they're all fantastic. They're really good. They're really a fun-loving, beer-knowledgeable group of people.
Everybody's got their own style down there. Everybody's got their own thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the one thing that I knew, as much as I didn't know about the business of anything in hospitality, I knew we did not want people to come in and somebody hand them a beer that is of a certain color, and that's about all they could say about it. That is a really bad representation too. If they just say, give me a pale ale, and like, I think if we have one that's like that, and they give no background or any more details, that's a really bad experience.
Right. Well, and it was shortly after I started that you paid for everybody to get their Cicerone certification.
Right.
Because you want people to be fluent in speaking the language of beer, because beer is a language.
And as we added the Luker Faucet, that's a journey that we're going to take over the next so many months, becoming really good at using that and a number of other things. But that's symbolic.
The Luker Faucet. Mm-hmm. So exciting.
You love the Luker.
I love the Luker. I don't drink from it at all because I'm always drinking
Is that the background picture on your phone? Did that replace Jade? The Luker Faucet?
No.
All I have is like Luker Faucet and Jade on my phone, so I can relate to that.
What is, and obviously maybe you can't talk about everything, what do you have planned business-wise for 2025?
Well, distribution, we have a couple of different parts of our brand. Toronado is our big push in distribution, the West Coast IPA I mentioned earlier. Then on...
And can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Based on the one that I just had?
Yeah.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Oh, I love it.
You're going to quote Jaws from it. That was ridiculous.
Even before we did the small tweaks, we were putting it in 4 test markets, and it vaporizes. So we know we're hitting some nerve out there. But as far as the tap room, which is where our bread and butter is, which is the point of the whole thing, we need more seats, and we're not trying to be opaque about needing to open a second tap room. We need more seats. Our plan was to expand onto our property when we built this place, but now the property that we were going to expand onto is a beer garden that I don't think the town will let us build onto.
Yeah, the beer garden draws so many during the summer months.
Yeah, we're not going to touch that.
We can't touch it.
But we might add a second level out there this year. That's the plan, to add a deck, and that deck will also allow us to put another bar on it and a staircase onto the roof. I'm giving my 5-year plan while I block her expression. But my 5-year plan is to build the rooftop bar. I have all of the, but what about covered, I think. So we'll see how that plays out.
So an
elevator has to happen.
An elevator has to happen. Our prohibition room area, which is where we're sitting now,
and that deck and this bar
is only accessible via a staircase, which is limiting, which isn't cool because it doesn't go with our mission statement, which is about being a very inclusive community. So I think that one of the things that we're going to do is really focus and try and build the taproom experience, or at least the on-site experience. Other breweries have talked about second locations, and we would love to do that. We just don't have the cash and capital to do so quite yet. But the kicker about this whole thing is we opened in 2018, COVID hit in 2020. And so we actually flipped our business model, which was build the tap room first and then expand into distribution. So because of COVID, we actually built our distribution first because we had to. And so we really haven't been able to focus.
We were 18 months in when COVID hit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that whole business model has been flipped. So I really think that this year is the year, 2025 is the year of strategic investment to the tap room to just really enhance the experience and make it the destination of Appleton.
And for those who don't listen to the podcast or who listen to the podcast and maybe don't know this, Bobby and Alex can build anything. They're like MacGyver. You know, if you gave them like a bag of nails and a rusty hammer and
with
some
Alex,
scraps.
with Alex, a 10 ounce of 547.
Which he would then leave all over the place
Yeah,
for us
that.
to pick up. But these guys, all of the work that gets done here, like you're talking about building the brew deck,
Yep.
that's going to be done by these two people.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be, we're going to hire Bolt to come in. No, it's going to be those two Jimmy rigging something together.
Yeah.
Completely
producing
legal and within the laws and within the building codes and all of that.
Right,
we
but-
built this place. It's all overdone.
But, you know, the
Yeah.
bottom line is if you're working 8 hours, you know, in the brewery sort of
Yeah.
thing, you would be adding an additional 8
Yeah.
hours doing that.
It's true.
Because that's
We wear
just
a
how
lot of
you
hats.
roll.
Yeah.
And I don't think people know, most people don't know that.
Yeah.
You know, Bobby works about 18 to 20 hour days.
Yeah. I was checking
What's he doing in
fermenters.
those 4 to 6? I mean,
Right.
this is
Slack.
slacking.
But, you know, I get up here at 5 in the morning. I get to literally be alone in the brewery and I guess whisper to the fermenters. And it's so rewarding every time.
I should come in here sometime around then, just when I'm going to bed.
Doing
You
QC.
should.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
we'll do beer
Now,
samples
we
together.
installed
Yeah.
cameras. We installed a camera that faces the fermenter temperatures just so he wouldn't have to come in at 4 a.m. And I was like, you could just look on your
I still
phone
do,
now.
but
You do.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so on brand.
Yeah.
So
The camera on the
brand.
fermenter temperatures.
Well, that is going to wrap up 2024 for the Respecting the Beer podcast.
Stay tuned.
We're going to have a lot more coming in the next year. Please make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player so you can get every single episode, and join the Facebook group so you can find out what's happening between all the episodes, and support the show over on Patreon because we even have t-shirts now. Links to both of these can be found in the show notes. And until 2025, please remember to respect the beer.